Greetings to all. It is a great pleasure for me to join you today. I wish I could be with you in person, but thanks to technology, here I am online. First, I would like to thank Professor Sunji Ryu and Toru Sakai for inviting me to present to you the distinctive features of the Dalcroze method, the Dalcroze identity. I will put on a PowerPoint to conduct my presentation. So just a moment, please. Émile Jacques Dalcroze was a man of many talents, a concert pianist, composer, conductor, and educator. His idea had an influence not only in the domain of music, but in those of dance, theater, and therapy. He was born of Swiss parents in Vienna in 1865, and he died in Geneva in 1950. His work will influence and be marked by the social movements and ideas which will cross the two world wars. His father came from a family of pastors, clockmakers, and musicians. His uncle was a virtuoso pianist and violinist. His mother was influenced by the ideas of the educator Pestalozzi, who emphasized the importance of the whole person as a social being. As a child, he was encouraged to express himself and started composing at the age of 7, writing and performing in music dramas and plays. After a 10-year stay in Vienna, his father decided to return to Switzerland and settled in Geneva, where Jacques Dalcroze studied piano and composition. Some years later, he also trained as an actor in Paris. In 1886, the chance to go to Algeria as a musical director for a small theater brought him in contact with the melodies and rhythms of Arabic music, which fascinated him and stimulated his interest in rhythm. Observing the flexible, contrapuntal movements of the dancers, he came to feel that Westerners had lost something essential that seemed natural to these people. When in 1892, he was appointed professor at the Geneva Conservatory of Music, he was stunned by the lack of rhythm and the hearing difficulties of his students, and he found the curricula and teaching methods fragmented and theoretical, too disconnected from the students' emotions and sensations. From then on, Jacques Dalcroze set about devising a new approach to music education that addressed the person as a whole. For Jacques Dalcroze, the principal aim of education is to help the person know himself or herself and develop her personality. He believes that the arts, and music in particular, has the power to arouse a person's vital forces, so enabling him or her to act and think for himself or herself. Through his experiences, Jacques Dalcroze began to realize that the body itself could be a source of knowledge and possess the instinctual rhythm that could be awakened and trained. He realized that the body is the instrument of learning. Dalcroze said, "Let your body become music." What is distinctively Dalcrozian is that in a Dalcroze music lesson, the body is the locus of experience and expression. The Dalcroze approach is holistic and addresses the person in his or her entire being, in inviting the body to listen, to move, and to express music, and the mind to reflect, analyze, and understand it. Dalcrozyurythmics emphasizes the indissolubility of the body-mind as an entity. Through the integration of action and reflection in the Dalcroze class, the moving, thinking person becomes the living image of the music, and she experiences the power of an integrated physical, emotional, and intellectual experience with music. From action to conceptualization to action, and so on. The music heard is worked on in movement, in action, forming a link between what is experienced through movement and what is understood about music. Dalcrozyurythmics is an embodied and deeply internalized understanding of music. Through doing and active listening, the student develops a fast and light system of communication between all the agents of movement and thinking. Dalcroze wrote of his method, "It is an education of the nervous system, of the will, and of the faculties of imagination." Dalcrozyurythmics is a special education seeking to order the nervous responses, to tune muscles and nerves, to harmonize mind and body. It is an education through and for music. Now, let's address the guiding principles of the method. Jacques Dalcroze considers that understanding grows out of personal experience, and that the student is at the center of the learning process. This principle is akin to the educational theory of constructivism, which is favored nowadays in school systems. When students experience music as their own, it becomes real to them as listeners and performers. Jacques Dalcroze wrote, "I know and I think simply because I feel and I experience." He also considers that learning grows out of social interaction. In a Dalcroze lesson, learning grows not only from the student's personal experience, but also in a communal, collective, and cooperative manner. Students are encouraged to learn from each other by working with a partner or in small or large groups. In doing so, they become aware of others and their understanding expands. They notice that there are different ways of expressing music and solving problems. This idea is at the center of socio-constructivism that underlines the role of social activities in the process of learning. Jacques Dalcroze also emphasizes that music understanding is rooted in body's action and anchored in sensory experience. For him, musical phenomena are perceived not only through the ears, but also through the whole body. Oral sensations are reinforced by muscular sensations. In Dalcrozyurythmics, Movement is an intense ear training designed to lead to active listening. Conscious bodily sensations are continuously aroused during the listening process, which results in students listening attentively and responsively. Another principle is that learning happens through the active participation and addresses the whole person. Jacques Dalcroze observed that music has the power to develop the whole person. He wrote, "Music is the most powerful means of education and can strengthen the communication between the senses, body, and the mind. For the rhythmic nature of musical sensations called for the muscular and nervous response of the whole organism." His finding regarding the dynamic nature of music led him to the view that a person who knows how to express the phenomena of music with his or her whole personality will develop true musicianship. In this approach, body, mind, and emotion are united, and learning becomes an integrated experience of sensing, moving, feeling, expressing, thinking, analysis, and understanding. Another principle guiding the approach is that theory should come after practical experience. When Jacques Dalcroze created his method, he was trying to resolve the imbalance caused by the intellectualization of musical knowledge and the tendency for abstraction without practical experience. He thought that before learning rules and concepts, the student should have first-hand experience of the fact on which the rules and concepts are based. And another principle of the method is that playful games stimulate learning. Play is a natural way of learning. In Eurhythmics, numerous games are created that attract students' interest and stimulate them to become involved. Playful games give rise to strongly motivating feelings of agency and joy that foster learning. Dalcroze's ideas have been validated by contemporary research. For instance, neuroscientific studies mention that there are two extremely important aspects of education that come from brain research: the involvement of the body and movement in the learning process, and the role of emotion and motivation. Researchers note that to build a mental representation of a musical phenomenon, it is fairly inefficient to present a verbal explanation instead of initiating a corporeal experience that then can be associated with a term or symbol. It is interesting to note that in 1921 already, Dalcroze wrote, "Musical consciousness is the result of physical experience." Note that he also insisted that theory should follow practical experience. As seen, Jacques Dalcroze believes that music has a strong educational power and fosters the development of an individual. He also considers that the body and body movement play a fundamental role in the learning of music. Thus, when thinking about the content of a lesson, Dalcroze teachers need to consider these three specific elements: music, movement, and personal development. As regard to the personal development of their students, Dalcroze teachers will address the following: sensory motor abilities in visual, oral, kinesthetic, and tactile modes; mental abilities, which focus on attention, concentration, organization of ideas in a coherent way, memorization, analysis, and conceptualization. They will also consider social abilities, which promote openness to and respect to others, self-control; emotional intelligence, which encourage receptivity to emotions, desire to express feelings, and desire to communicate; and creative abilities, which develop flexibility, fluidity, originality, adaptability, risk-taking, and decision-making. In their lesson, Dalcroze teachers will consider the music components that students need to hear, explore, perform, and discriminate. The pitch component, that is the awareness of pitch and the relationship between pitches, the intervals, the chords, the harmony, in tonal, atonal, diatonic, or chromatic musical system. All systems are used. Another component that is worked on is the rhythm, to feel and understand notions of tempo, pulse, beat, measure, rhythmic pattern, the phrase, the anacruise, cruise, metacruise, all things that you probably have worked on this week. The nuance, the dynamic and agogic nuances, the form, the structure of the piece, whether it is ABA, canon, fugue, rondo, variation. Dalcroze teachers will also consider various components of movement. For instance, the basic movement of extension, flexion, rotation, and so on. The basic actions of movement, like locomotor movement, like running, walking, or non-locomotor movement, like kneeling. The form of the movement, is it a round, an angular, a twisted form that we are expressing with our body? The dimension of the movement, big or small movement. We also have to consider the notion of space, the immediate space that surrounds oneself, that is the kinesphere, the directions of the movement, going forward, backward, up, down, left, right, in vertical plans, horizontal or sagittal plans, the levels that are used in movement, in the space, the high, middle, or low level of space, the pathways that are drawn on the floor or in the air. We also have to consider the energy of the movement and its factors. Laban theory has a very good explanation of this aspect of the movement. He's talking about the flow of the movement. Is it a free flow or a controlled flow? The weight of the movement. Is it strong? Is it light? Is it quick? Is it slow? Time factor, the space factor also. Is our movement direct or indirect? We also have to consider the interrelation, the movement interrelation between one person and another. The roles between participants, are they doing the same? Are they doing the contrary? Are they complementing each other? Leading, following, mirroring, reacting to another one. What is the spatial relation? Are they facing each other? Are they back to back, side by side? And the time relation, are they working in unison? Are they alternating the movement? Are they working in canon? All these components of movement will be addressed in the Dalcroze lesson. Music and movement are at the heart of the method, and consequently, their relationship and interdependence are demonstrated clearly in the learning and teaching approach. All aspects of music can be explored through movement. Whatever can be heard or sung can be felt through movement or gesture, and vice versa. One strengthens the image of the other. Music and movement share elements of time, space, and energy. And the relations between the elements of time, space, energy are at the core of the method. You have certainly noticed this week when you were working with the music with your teacher, I'm sorry. You have certainly noticed this week when you were moving with the music, the constant relation between time, space, energy. Teachers must have discussed this with you. In fact, the Dalcroze teacher is a specialist in music movement relationships. As many of you are interested in becoming a Dalcroze teacher, let us now have an overall view of the training program. Rhythmics, Dalcroze solfège, improvisation are the three principal branches of the method and lead to plastique animé. Since the general aim of the training is to develop the attitudes, aptitudes, skills, and knowledge necessary to the teaching of Dalcroze Eurhythmics, the training also includes courses in the theory and practice of Dalcroze teaching and learning based on the philosophy, principles, and subjects of the method. And it also comprises teaching practice. The three principal branches stand in close relation to one another and are mutually interdependent. Each offers tools to the other and throws its own light on the subjects of study. For example, body movement is used as a tool in solfège and improvisation. Solfège is used both in improvisation and rhythmics, and improvisation is used in the rhythmics and solfège lessons. The elements specific to each branch can be summarized as follows. The particular focus of rhythmics is to refine the body and bodily perception, to educate the nervous system, to develop sensitivity, and to promote psychic and physical economy. That is, to be able to move with the right tonus, the right energy. Solfège uses singing and rhythmic movement to awaken the feeling for pitch and the relationships between tones, to hear and understand the musical discourse, such as melody and harmony. The particular focus of the improvisation course is to develop the ability to improvise on an instrument in a variety of styles, to initiate a response in movement by means of musical improvisation, and to respond to movement observed. The first aim of plastique animé is to realize in movement a piece of musical repertoire, to make music visible. It is a kind of analysis and creative interpretation which requires the application of the knowledge gained in the other branches of the method. Through the use of movement, the rhythmics class develops proprioception, the kinesthetic sense, balance, elasticity, bodily coordination. Rhythmics uses few codified movement. It is through the movement of the whole body on spot or traveling in space that the notions of space, duration, weight, and energy are explored. Walking, running, jumping, skipping, swaying, gesture, and movements of the arms or other parts of the body are used in the study of music. The use of full arm beats for metrical analysis is typically Dalcroze. While some technical and creative exercises may take place without music, others rely on music which stimulates, leads, guides movement, and in so doing contributes to psychomotor development. The manipulations of materials such as balls, scarves, and hoops is used as a support in technical and creative exercises to develop the sense of time, space, and energy and their connections with music. Many of these exercises involve working with a partner or in group. This fosters the development of social skills. Working with others enables students to explore unison, polyphony, leading, following, and so on, owing the connections between music and movement. In solfège, all the principles and techniques of rhythmics are applied to the study of sight reading and oral training. It can be adapted to any note naming system, the fixed dose system, relative solfa, syllables, numbers, letters of the alphabet. In the solfège class, the use of movement and improvisation is characteristic of Dalcroze teaching in the development not only of good intonation, rhythm, and literacy, but also to musical inventiveness, expressivity, and communication. Part singing, conducting, and performance also plays a part in the development of the complete musician. The emphasis is on exercises to develop the inner hearing of pitch through the use of gesture, space, and improvisation. Improvisation uses the voice, movement, and various musical instruments, especially the piano. It emphasizes the building of a musical vocabulary for the purpose of improvising in a variety of styles, evoking all kinds of movement and in response to other media, such as poetry or visual arts. Solo, pair, and group improvisation of all kinds contributes to oral training and ensemble skills. Improvisation is central to the Dalcroze approach. It is used by the teacher and the student, and it is applied in movement and music. In plastique animé, students study a musical composition and realize it in movement and space. Analysis of the score enables students to get a better grasp of the processes and intentions of the composer. Movement improvisation is used in order to let the music penetrate the body and to understand how the body responds to it. The students ask themselves these key questions. How does the music move? To what sensations does it give rise? How to bring out the expressive elements of the music and show them in movement and space. Students explore diverse styles, forms, and structures of pieces such as orchestral works, chamber music, solo instrumental, and the use of different groupings of people like solo, duet, trio, large ensemble. Plastique animé is a visualization of music in movement and space. To conclude this presentation, I would like to present the ways and means of learning and teaching in a Dalcroze lesson. I'm sure that you have experienced these various strategies this week with your teachers. Here are some of them. Body movement responds to a visual oral or tactile stimulus. For instance, you walk the beat of the music. When the teacher says 3, you subdivide the beat in 3 steps. If teacher says 2, you subdivide the beat in 2 steps. Here you are responding to an oral stimulus. Incitation and inhibition. Incitation is when you have to react quickly to a command. Inhibition is when you refrain yourself from moving. Internalization, when you have to feel the beat without clapping it, or hear a melody without singing it. Another strategy is to ask to associate or dissociate, to coordinate different parts of your body. For instance, when you clap a rhythm and step another one, like in complementary rhythm exercises. Repetition and automatization is when you conduct the meter of a melody and step its rhythm, for instance. Then you need to have automatized the full arm conducting gestures, which make it easier to step the rhythmic patterns. Systematization and memorization. Imagine a musical phrase of 4 measures. During the first beat while walking, you clap on the first beat of the measure. During the second measure, you clap on the second beat. During the third measure, you clap on the third beat, and so on. You need to feel the meter and memorize the sequence and systematically clap on the right beat of the measure. We also use solo, pair, and group work, like leading or following a partner or participating in an ensemble. Other strategies are imitation, improvisation and composition, both musical and in movement, and conducting. In Dalcroze lessons, all these means are used to address the topics under study. These pedagogical strategies and ways of doing things are part of the toolbox of the Dalcroze teacher. When planning a lesson and creating an exercise, the Dalcroze teacher needs to connect music and movement components and find the best ways to do so. The challenge for the Dalcroze teacher is to integrate and connect all these elements together. The music elements that are illustrated here, the movement element that we discussed earlier, and the ways of teaching and learning that we have just presented. This approach underlines the polyvalent and multimodal nature of Dalcroze activities. Polyvalence refers to an exercise with more than one purpose and that develops more than one ability. There are many exercises. I'm sure that you have experienced that. Multimodality refers to an exercise that appeals to diverse modes of communication. For instance, when you are mirroring the movement of a partner who moves with music, the visual, oral, and kinesthetic modes are at work. Connecting these elements and integrating them in the learning and teaching process contributes to the development of all the faculties of a person. For Jacques Dalcroze, music through movement is the best means to develop not only the musician, but the person as a social, creative, and communicative artist. If you want to have more details or to deepen your understanding of the Dalcroze method, I invite you to read the second edition of the document entitled The Dalcroze Identity, published in 2020. You can find it on the Geneva Institute Jacques Dalcroze website. Here is the link. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope meeting you in person in the near future. I wish you all best wishes and goodbye to everyone. Thank you.